Take an inch back, please.
Mr. Trump, what have you in common with Keir Starmer?
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Starmer in the Oval Office. It's a very special place, and he's a special man. And the United Kingdom is a wonderful. This is a wonderful country that I know very well. I'm there a lot, and I'll be going there, and we expect to see each other in the near future. We'll be announcing it, but we're going to be discussing many things today. We'll be discussing Russia-Ukraine. We'll be discussing trade and lots of other items. And I think we can say that we're going to be getting along on every one of them. We've had a tremendous relationship, and frankly, the Prime Minister and I have met twice before.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer arrived in Washington, D.C. with the mindset that his Washington press conference with Trump would show him as a strong world leader. Instead, it turned into a complete humiliation when the audience started turning on him.
We stand side by side still today, and we're focused now on bringing an enduring end to the barbaric war in Ukraine. Mr. President, I welcome your deep and personal commitment to bring peace and to stop the killing. You've created a moment of tremendous opportunity to reach a historic peace deal. A deal that I think would be celebrated in Ukraine and around the world. That is the prize. But we have to get it right. There's a famous slogan in the United Kingdom from after the Second World War. That is that we have to win the peace. And that's what we must do now. Because it can't be peace that rewards the aggressor or that gives encouragement to regimes like Iran. We agree history must be on the side of the peacemaker, not the invader.
You can actually see the moment he realises he's losing control. His face drops as journalists who normally give him softball questions suddenly start hammering him about his contradictory policies. Trump's reaction in the background says it all.
Thank you so much, and it's just fantastic to look out and see you all here. Thank you so much for coming along. It's really fantastic to have this opportunity just to spend a bit of time with you. And I've only just arrived, but already I can feel there's a real buzz around Washington right now. You can sense that there's a new leader in town, that he's a true one-off, a pioneer in business and in politics. Many people love him. Others love to hate him. But to us, he's just Peter. And Peter is the right person to help us work with President.
Did you see how Starmer's team was bragging about this trip for weeks? They were practically shouting from the rooftops that this would be his big moment on the world stage. His team has spent weeks meticulously planning every detail, convinced this Washington visit would transform Starmer's image into that of a serious global leader who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Donald Trump. The preparation was intense. Starmer's entire PR machine descended on Washington similar to an invasion. They were armed with briefing documents, talking points, and a desperate hope that this international debut would change the narrative back home.
Ready, close? Ready, shut.
Yes, we can. We can. We will. Thank you.
You could almost feel their determination as they positioned photographers and prepped their boss with carefully crafted lines designed to make them sound statesmanlike. But all that planning and the carefully constructed facade crumbled almost immediately after he set foot in the White House. It was a confirmation that you can't give what you don't have. Starmer doesn't have the charisma of an international political juggernaut, so he can't display these qualities.
We had a really good discussion, a productive discussion, a good discussion, as a result of which our teams are now going to be working together on an economic deal. Our teams are going to be working together on security in Ukraine. You mentioned Canada. I think you're trying to find a divide between us that doesn't exist. We're the closest of nations, and we had very good discussions today, but we didn't discuss Canada.
Thank you.
While Starmer's entourage was still settling in, Trump's inner circle had already begun undermining them, first by whispering to journalists that they weren't impressed with the British Prime Minister. The leak started subtly, with hints that the president found Starmer's approach to certain topics lacking. The warm welcome they anticipated quickly evaporated into thin air. This visit was critical for Starmer, especially after his political standing in Britain had collapsed dramatically after what many consider the most disastrous budget in recent memory. His approval rating is tanking faster than a house of cards in a hurricane, an indication that the British public was furious about the massive tax hikes hitting ordinary families, while his migration policies faced ridicule from all sides. So his team desperately needed a positive international moment to counterbalance the avalanche of bad press. When the cameras finally captured the two leaders together in the Oval Office, the contrast was remarkable. Trump looked completely at ease as he lounged in his chair with clear confidence. In contrast, Starmer appeared painfully uncomfortable, sitting rigidly.
It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
Well, that is really nice. I must make sure his signature's on that. Because, otherwise, it's not quite as meaningful. It is, and that's quite a signature, isn't it? Beautiful.
This is a letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented.
The answer is yes. On behalf of our wonderful First Lady, Melania, and myself, the answer is yes.
His posture revealed his anxiety. He looked like a schoolboy called to the headmaster's office, and body language experts have been brutal in their analysis of his gestures. They quickly pointed out how he kept pulling at his sleeves and touching his stomach. Movement and gestures they called self-soothing gestures that humans do when feeling threatened or overwhelmed. A particular analyst highlighted how Starmer kept adjusting his tie and shifting weight, while another noted his shallow breathing and a tight smile that never reached his eyes. Meanwhile, Trump projected what experts described as territorial confidence, controlling the room and conversation effortlessly. The visual difference was striking.
Took it by storm, but they say he's going to do even better this time. Nigel Farage. Where is Nigel? Thank you, Nigel. Thank you. What a great guy.
Keir Starmer must hate that. Shame on his front bench for their insult about Donald Trump. Nigel Farage responded to the Prime Minister saying, "How dare Starmer talk to us about jobs?"
Trump relaxed and commanding, Starmer tense and uncertain, with his eyes occasionally darting around as if searching for an escape route. What's truly remarkable is that Starmer's team actually thought this would be a triumph. Instead, it set the stage for a complete diplomatic disaster that would unfold in front of the world's media. This diplomatic disaster Starmer walked into turned into a full-blown humiliation when Trump decided to compliment him. In a moment that had journalists struggling not to laugh out loud, Trump reduced Britain's Prime Minister to nothing more than a pleasant voice, stripping away any pretense that this was a meeting between equals.
Did our Prime Minister persuade you not to put tariffs on the UK?
He tried. He was working hard, I'll tell you that. He earned whatever the hell they pay him over there. But he tried. I think there's a very good chance that in the case of these two great friendly countries, I think we could very well end up with a real trade deal where the tariffs wouldn't be necessary. We'll see. But he earned whatever they pay him. He earned today. He was working hard at lunch, and I'm very receptive to it. I think in all fairness, in all seriousness, I think we have a very good chance at arriving at a very good deal. JD and Scott and Howard, all the people are working on it, and I think we have a good chance at arriving at a deal that could be terrific.
When both men finally sat down for their joint press conference, Trump went completely off script with what appeared to be a friendly observation. "What a beautiful accent," Trump said with that unmistakable smirk playing across his face. "I would have been president 20 years ago if I had that accent," he continued. The press immediately erupted with laughter, but Trump's delivering that signature mixture of faux admiration and thinly veiled contempt landed exactly as he intended. And there was Starmer, frozen like a deer in headlights, his face locked in possibly the most uncomfortable smile in diplomatic history. The footage captures just how excruciating this moment was, as it showed Starmer's face flushed, a deep shade of red, as the realization dawned on him that this wasn't praise at all. Trump had delivered a calculated insult disguised as a compliment, essentially telling the world that Starmer's only political asset was how he sounds, not anything substantive he might actually have to say. The cameras caught everything, including David Lammy Starmer's foreign secretary staring down at his notes, visibly mortified by the exchange. That downward gaze spoke volumes. This meeting was derailing spectacularly. Political analysts familiar with Trump's playbook immediately recognized the tactic. This statement wasn't just some off-the-cuff remark, but a deliberate, backhanded compliment designed to establish dominance. It was Trump's way of saying, "I don't see you as an equal," and he executed it flawlessly in front of the international press corps.
Well, it's just gone midday here on the North Lawn of the White House. There is the West Wing, and there's a real sense of anticipation here at the moment, because in a few minutes' time, the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will roll in here in his motorcade. There's a guard of honour waiting for him, as is the case when any world leader comes to the White House. But my goodness, this is a massive, massive visit. Perhaps the most consequential, the most important visit between a British Prime Minister and an American president, maybe since World War II.
President Trump, can you get a peace deal done in Ukraine? How confident?
Well, into the West Wing they went, into the Oval Office, which is just through that door, up the corridor, not far from here at all. And up front, Sir Keir Starmer decided to play Britain's trump card to Trump, a formal invitation for a state visit to London.
Well, that is really nice.
The Daily Mirror analyst hit the mark. Trump's beautiful accent remark was a precise strike aimed at undermining Starmer's political credibility. In one seemingly innocent comment, Trump implied that the British Prime Minister had nothing valuable to offer beyond his pleasing manner of speech. A political assassination masked as flattery. What's remarkable is how predictable this should have been, because Trump has consistently used these tactics with world leaders he doesn't respect. These aren't gaffes or moments of indiscipline, they're calculated moves to establish who truly holds power, and Starmer walked straight into it, completely unprepared for Trump's psychological game.
The anniversary of victory in Europe. Britain and America fought side by side to make that happen. One of the greatest moments in our history. We stand side by side still today, and we're focused now on bringing an enduring end to the barbaric war in Ukraine. Mr. President, I welcome your deep and personal commitment to bring peace and to stop the killing. You've created a moment of tremendous opportunity to reach a historic peace deal, a deal that I think would be celebrated.
Remember, this was a journalist asking Starmer about Trump's controversial comments on Canada, a softball question any halfway competent leader should handle easily. But Starmer immediately started floundering, trying to dodge with a weak diplomatic non-answer. "I think you're trying to find a divide between us that doesn't exist." And that's when it happened.
And keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia to strengthen Ukraine now. Second, we agreed that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security. And Ukraine must be...
Right in the middle of Starmer's rambling response, Trump decided he'd heard enough, with a dismissive wave of his hand and a sharp, "That's enough, thank you." He cut the British Prime Minister off mid-sentence. The room plunged into a heavy silence that felt like a physical blow. The press corps people who've seen everything in politics froze in collective shock. You could practically hear hearts beating in the silent room and asking themselves, when was the last time you saw a world leader publicly silence another world leader like they were a chatty schoolchild? What made this moment truly excruciating was Starmer's reaction. The cameras caught everything, his mouth hanging slightly open and his eyes darting across the room. But that wasn't all. What made this moment truly excruciating was watching Starmer's economic advisor in the background. The poor bloke looked physically ill staring down at his shoes. If you enjoyed this political discussion, like the video and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating content.